Hey, so today I want to go through a new feature that's been rolled into NotebookLM. That's part of our workspace account, and if you haven't played with it, highly recommend it. One of the most incredible of the AI tools that is available out there. You probably are familiar with some of it because if you've seen any of the podcast stuff, NotebookLM is where the podcast and the ability to talk to the announcers and stuff comes from. But while the podcast stuff is interesting, maybe a little gimmicky in some ways, what I'm going to show you today is, I think, really interesting for a couple of reasons. And specifically, we're going to be looking at the ability of NotebookLM to generate mind maps of your content. So if you haven't played with NotebookLM at all, it allows you to add sources. You can do PDF, text, audio files. I think it actually does WAV and MP3. You can upload Google Docs, slides, links, websites. You can link to specific URLs. It won't like index an entire site, but you can take individual pages and you launch those URLs into it. It'll index those for search. YouTube videos. It'll actually transcribe the audio of a YouTube video and make that available for search, and then copy and paste text. It'll take 300 sources. Each of the sources can be up to 500,000 words each. So we're talking about a large scale, and I think that's what actually makes it really interesting. You're talking about creating your own custom AI based upon the resources you identify, and the term is called grounded. NotebookLM is highly grounded. It will give you individual citations for everything that it summarizes, identifies, etc. So where this comes into play, I think sometimes when people start playing with AI, they're faced with the start typing or the prompt window, and honestly, they're not totally sure where to start, right? So what the mind map does, I'm going to go ahead and click it. It's right here. And you can see over on the right-hand side, it's generating the mind map. What the mind map does is it will go through all of your sources, and it's going to identify any place where there are categories, consistencies, information that is related to each other across all of those resources, and it's going to literally build a 3, 4, 5 level navigation map of all of your sources and information. So here it is. It's already ready. And this is what I mean. If you click on it, this is Colorado Digital Accessibility, Laws and Standards, Applicability, Key Concepts, Definitions, Compliance and Planning, Accessible Content Types, People with Disabilities, Resources and Tools, Contact Information, Undue Burden, right? So these are the major sections around which accessibility kind of hinges. If I come in here and I click on Compliance and Planning, you can now see that it breaks it down into a next echelon or level of information: state agency responsibilities, local government responsibilities, accessibility planning core criteria, adoption planning checklist template, alternative access plans. So let's go into let's go into local government responsibilities. Compliance and creation, develop an accessibility plan, provide reasonable accommodations, a published accessibility statement. So that one's actually, so since you're not required to submit your action plan, let's look at the published accessibility statement. What are the requirements around that? So you can tell that was the endpoint, right? 4 levels in. What it does then is when you click on that one, it will take you to a chat window where it's going to generate on the fly an issue paper based upon all of those sources around the issue of published accessibility statement. And you'll see here that based upon the sources, and it's going to give me all the main categories. So it's almost like a 5th level of information. Requirement for local governments. If you hover over the information, it'll bring up a hover window where you can see the specific reference where it came from. You can also click on it, and it will take you to the specific section of whatever resource it was that it pulled that information from. So you can very quickly see where the source actually is rooted. But here, requirement, minimum content of the statement, timely response, prominent notice. So these are all the things that came right out of the legislative requirements on what local governments have to do. But then it also takes it and says, hey, I'm going to put it into context. So here's where you're supposed to do it according to the House bill, but here's why you're doing it, to fully comply with WCAG. And then it's giving you the deeper information on the WCAG is like the international guidelines that are applicable for accessibility. So it goes into that background. It goes deep into all of the context, where it actually, what role it plays in compliance and demonstrating compliance. Grace period, that was actually the extension that allowed for the penalties not to be assessed in the first year of accessibility implementation. And then it gives you Eagle County example of what we actually did, drawn from the resources. So once you actually have that, based upon this, now you can actually interact with this too. You can ask it questions. So I'll make this a little bigger, and it will kind of keep it to that chat area. So based upon this information, can you generate a draft generic template for a statement that could be put on a website? And so it has the generative components that can actually come up with answers in addition to that search. But I think it kind of gives people a head start on being able to navigate and see all of their source data in a different way than having to just remember it. And then it eliminates kind of that blank stare of, okay, I want to ask a question, I don't even know where to start. And then here, it will give you that issue paper. You can navigate down to it, and then you can ask specific questions. And again, it's giving you all of the specific sources on why this statement is good. So very cool. And I think there's a huge opportunity for being able to organize large volume data sets into stuff. Yeah, I mean, this is one that we're working on now with the VPATs. These are the voluntary product accessibility templates. This is what companies have to basically say what they're doing to become accessible friendly. So a lot of good guidance will be in here about kind of what it is and what their requirements are. The role in procurement, evaluation process, best meets scenario, vendor commitment, and yeah, you can see it's coming from all of those sources. So I think the mind map element in Notebook is fascinating, and yeah, I'm really interested to see how you use it too. All right.